Perfect. Well, welcome everyone. It was a great intro from Sabrina. So thank you. I think there's some new faces here. I'm Anita Thompson of Art Venture Workshops, and I teach mostly libraries. But I have some side things going on as well, but libraries are my ultimate favorite. And I'm so happy all of you are here tonight. This is our cloudy pink sky painting. You are going to need a small cup of water. Also, I like to put my paints out on a paper plate. So if you've got something like that, that would be great. We will be mixing in this class this evening. And then we do need a pencil with an eraser. We're going to be drawing in the clouds and the moon. Again, most of it is done with paint. So we're just going to be using our pencil for, some sort of where the clouds are, but your interpretation will add to that as you start adding the paint. Okay, so we're going to get started here. I'm going to move my original, and we're going to have our painting. So as you can see, it's a small painting. I mentioned 8 by 10. If you've got 11 by 14, that's fine too. I actually, when I created it, I accidentally created it larger in my original and didn't mean to. I was sort of in the middle of doing lots of programming at that point, and sometimes I grabbed the wrong size. But it is 8 by 10 for our purposes. So we're going to get started with our cloud coverage. And we're going to start right up at the top, in the top left corner. So we're going to be acting like, we're kindergartners and drawing our clouds in the sense. So I'm going to be going darker so that you're able to see. And let me spotlight or go a bit closer, especially because this is such a small piece. Move back here. Thank you. All right. So we're going to start in the top left corner, and we want that cloud coverage to kind of swoop a little bit across our painting, just a little bit. And then we also have a cloud coming in the upper right. We do still have sky that's going to be peeking through, and also still at the top here. So this cloud is approximately shaped like this. And as I always say in my classes, your interpretation is wonderful no matter how you do it. So it's okay if it doesn't look exactly like mine. And we're going to keep going here. We've got our crescent moon here right in the corner. So we're going to draw that in. So you're going to act like you're drawing a circle, obviously. And then we've got our little sliver. Of our moon. Actually very C-shaped, like the letter C. I feel like I'm doing a Sesame Street episode. C for, well, it's not really for cloud, but okay. So after that, we're going to continue now here on the left. We're going to be drawing the clouds on the left side here. So we're going to start up here, very close to our moon. And that cloud is going to look a little something like this. And it is going to be pointy, going towards the middle of our painting here. And then we're going to go a little bit further down to draw the next cloud. It's going to be smaller or shorter, still kind of pointy on the right side, lumpy, like so. And then for now, we're just going to draw the cloud, the bigger cloud in the bottom left here of our corner. So we're mapping it out. Very simple drawing, but I think pretty, like I mentioned, I think it's pretty fun. And now we're going to come on over here to the right. And so we're going to start with a thinner cloud again, or pointier as it goes towards the center here. And then right below it, we have a bigger cloud. Puffier, extends a little bit out again. It's going to be good practice, good cloud practice. If you've never done clouds before, I think they're really fun. I actually know an artist. She's from New Hope, and her name is Kelly Money. And I may have mentioned her before in my newsletter. I feel like I did, and gave her her website, or at least her Instagram. She is, I call her the cloud queen. Her clouds are amazing, and that's pretty much what she paints. She has made a living from painting clouds, and they're just incredible. Sounds pretty funny, right? But for those that are interested to look at her work, I will leave that with Sabrina when I send her over the recording for this. Oh, Amanda is coming on in. I'm going to put, you know what? It's a good idea. I'm going to put it in the chat. That's a good idea, Sandy. All right. So her name is Kelly Money. Just like, oops, isn't that funny? I put Jelly Money because I went near the J. Kelly Money. I think that's how you spell Kelly. So she is a cloud artist in New Hope, Pennsylvania. Check out her work. It's incredible. Best clouds I've ever seen. And her paintings are really large. So the clients that buy them have also these incredible houses from what I see on Instagram. And it really does her paintings justice. She does do smaller works. So, you know, they're also available. Okay, so, and we've got one more cloud right here in the middle. But yeah, for inspiration, I would definitely check her out. And I will probably link her in my newsletter next week too, in case anybody doesn't get a chance or isn't on this this workshop tonight. So very simple here. We've got our basics down, and we are going to get started. So we're going to start at the top, obviously, with our darkest color. We're going to start with our dark blue. So that's going to be like your navy blue, or if you've got, you know, any kind of blue that's darker than the sky blue. So we're going to start off there. We're then going to go into purple and even a little bit of pink at this point. And I will be laying all these down as we're doing it. And we're basically going to be working fast in the sense of working back and forth. So what you want to do is you're going to lay in your color right underneath your clouds. And you're going to start going in a back and forth motion, left to right, in order to blend those colors. So you can dip your brush. So this is going to be, we're going to start off with our flat brush. And we're going to start at the top with our blue. And you're going to get quite a bit on there. I have it there on the tip, a little more than the tip. And you're going to start off. And because this painting is smaller, and depending on what brush you're using, you can kind of start to dab it on. So what I'm doing is dabbing on here at the top, the clouds. And then you can start to move back and forth if you like. So you want to get really close to the cloud lines right now. You know, almost like you are, you know, kind of sketching and filling out the space between the clouds. So we're doing that with our blue right now. And you can continue that blue also around your moon. So as you can see, I'm kind of very gently going around. I'm also working with a bigger brush. You can switch to a smaller brush if you're more comfortable as you're going around the clouds. We will be revisiting, obviously, the clouds with our mixture of white, baby blue or light blue, pink. Right now, we just kind of want to get an idea about where our clouds are. So what I'm doing right now is just creating the edge between the clouds and the sky. And we are going to go back and obviously start to blend. But that's about where we want the blue to be. Oh, forgot to go back on my moon. And I think I am going to switch to my detail brush for around the moon. So just painting kind of slowly around the moon, tracing around it. The great thing, I think, about this painting is I really wanted to focus on cloud detail. So it's kind of why I made it smaller. And the rest of it, I think, relatively easy. Okay, so once you have your moon, everything done, you can now fill in this top portion with your dark blue. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to lay down the first color, and then we're going to start to introduce colors into the blue while the blue is still wet. And that's how you get that nice blending technique. And also by going left to right. So just take your time. So again, right now, we just kind of want our blue up to this cloud. And then once you have your blue sort of filled in, you want to start that sweeping motion that we talked about. Kind of evening out any lumps. Excuse me, my allergies today are a little bit crazy. Not sure why. Okay, so left to right. Okay, now, once you have your blue, you're then going to wash off your brush and you're going to be adding your purple. Let me just see if somebody else pop on or no. Maybe not. So you're going to then wash off your brush, dab it on your paper towel, and you're going to get into your purple. So same way that we did with the blue, you're going to get into your purple, and you're going to start sort of in the middle here with your purple. So we're going to start going again from the left to the right. You're going to be going to the left of your moon. And then you're going to go straight across to the other side. You can even start to go a little bit towards your clouds as well, meaning the clouds here on the right. And then you're going to start doing that motion from left to right. If you need to add more purple, keep doing that. The goal is to have a purplish blue at this point. If it starts to dry on you for whatever reason, some of you may be, it's depending really on the temperature in your room. If you have very dry air happening with the air conditioner, it might dry faster. If it's more humid, it's going to dry slower. So again, you're going to go back and forth. Make sure to get to the left of your moon as well. Add some more purple if necessary. And then we're going to be adding white to our purple so that we have a little bit of lavender happening. I'm also going to go back and just add some more blue up top, even with the purple on my brush. So you should still have a nice dark bluish purple happening. And then I like to go back, like I said, even with the purple now on my brush, I'm going to go back underneath the clouds and just kind of dot along the edge of the clouds so that it doesn't look like I'm still having some blue kind of peeking out a little bit. And then I'm going to sweep across again, left to right. To fill in that color. So now I have a nice even sky. And for right now, we're going to keep this color on our brush. And when you are ready, you're going to dab your purple in another spot on your palette. And then you're going to dab some white so that you get a lighter purple. And we're going to keep getting a little bit lighter. So this is going to be sort of a dark lavender. You can see that because we're going for a gradient. Added a little bit more white because it was a little bit too purpley still. It should be kind of like a dark lavender. And it's okay if you've still got some blue in there. You actually want that. And then you're going to start adding that color against where your clouds are that you started adding that purple and the blue. And you're going to start sweeping that and blending it across. And then you're going to start to continue down into your next area. And repeating that process, going along each of the clouds on the left and the right. So those clouds right across from each other. And then sweep that color right across, blend it. And as you can see, we're starting to get, or you should be starting to get, a gradient. If it's too wet, like you have too much paint on your brush, you want to wipe your brush slightly on your paper towel. If there's not enough on your brush, then you want to make sure you add more. You should be able to be going back and forth with your brush, and there shouldn't be canvas showing, if that makes sense, as you're doing this. That's when you kind of know you need to load your brush again. So I'm taking this color now, a little bit below the left cloud, and not below the cloud on the right, because we also want to add some white in this part above. Oh, sure. Yes, I can show the full painting again. Absolutely. Absolutely. So basically, we start to get a little bit lighter in the middle here. And you see how it's starting to transcend into a lighter lavender. That's what we're going to be doing. But we've got some white happening up here, kind of interspersed with it. Okay. So right at this point, you've still got that color on your brush. You're going to dip again into your white. So just the tip of your brush, and you're going to make a new color. You're going to go, if you can, right next to that color you made, that lavender. And you're going to make another purple color using the white. And you can move your brush back and forth in the sense of, like, I'm turning my brush like this, and then I turn it again so that both tips of my brush are covered, both sides. And so now we've got like a light lavender blue in a sense. It's more lavender, but there's some blue in there because there's blue and lavender anyway. And then you're going to take that And you're going to sweep across where we just were. I like to kind of hold my brush sort of up in the air and almost on the edge of the brush. And then I'm going to sweep. You're going to sweep lines across like so. And also start to go down underneath the cloud on the left. And a bit on the right. That's going to look, it's going to look kind of bluish. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go back and you're going to start sweeping from left to right in that space to blend it. That's okay if you start to go into the cloud. The other thing that's going to happen is it may really lighten up quite a bit on you if your paint is drying, like mine's doing that right now. So I'm going to then lay that color in, rinse my brush, and go back to that lavender. I have to remix a little more here. That lavender. And then what you're going to do is just sweep over again that whole spot to blend it. And if you need to add a little bit of blue, or I'm sorry, purple, you can do that. But you want it to get lighter as you're getting towards these clouds. So it should be a little bit of a lighter purple. But then I'm going to come back and just add some more regular purple at the top of where we started blending. And then moving it into the middle part. And you may be going over the clouds a little bit in the sense of, you know, at the tip of them, that's okay. Because remember, we're going to be covering this with our cloud colors. So going back and forth. I sometimes just like to go back a little more with my blue and just dab around the edges of the clouds and the moon. And then we're going to continue onward, downward with our purple. So we're going to get back into our purple again. Oops, that was a little too wet. So I'm going to dry that off on my paper towel. So our next step is now going to be adding purple in the next section. So I'm going right across the canvas. We want it to be wet so that when we start to apply our pink, it's going to be a gradient. So now we're applying that purple. Going up against our clouds. Oh, I'm just looking. I think I just went over one of my little clouds. Don't do like I did. Go around that little cloud on the right. I'm gonna have to repaint that sucker back in. So again, once you get that purple, this purple, you actually want to stay at the top part of the clouds in this area, because we're going to go right into our pink and yellow coming down from here. So continuing with your purple, you're going to go up even a little bit into the section that you just painted, doing this with that purple. And you're just very lightly sweeping. Just very lightly sweeping it so that some of that purple is going to show up right above. Just keep blending that. And once you have that, you're actually going to grab your pink and you're going to find another spot next to your purple, sort of at the edge of the paint, meaning this is your purple. And you're going to mix that pink into a little spot of the purple. And you're going to kind of get this pinkish purple. It's kind of a light purple with a pinkish tinge. You're going to mix that really good on your brush. And then you're going to start to apply it. And for now, it's going to look kind of lavendery. Just kind of go back and forth. Make sure to bring that color down towards your clouds, but not underneath, because we're going to get into pinkish yellow and then yellowy white. So you can see I'm going back and forth very lightly. And then I like to add some of these purple streaks a little bit up above, just a little bit, not above like at the top of our painting, but on top of the blue we just created. So we have some streaks of some of that lavender. Really wispy. And then you're going to clean your brush again. And this time you're going to just apply straight pink. So cleaning your brush, making sure the purple is out of it, dabbing your brush on your paper towel or whatever you're using. And then you're going to get into the Pepto-Bismol pink. And you're going to start underneath your clouds, because what we'll do, we're going to paint this pink, and then you're going to go back and swipe the pink into the purple. And that's how we're going to blend, like what we've been doing. So now you're going to do a lot of the rest of this painting with your pink. And then we're going to go back and add yellow and white. So remembering again, going right up against all our clouds. So at this point, this other half of the painting, we're going to apply, the first layer is going to be our pink. So apparently when I was like between the ages of 3 and 6, this color was my favorite color. And I remember this. I told my mom I was going to have a pink house and a pink car and pink everything. Wouldn't you know it? Now I really can't stand the color pink. I mean, it's okay, but I don't own anything pink as far as like clothing wise. So it's pretty funny when how that works out. And my favorite color is actually black. I always tell that story when I'm at my kids' programs because I don't wear black when I teach kids. I wear really bright colors. And I actually, funny enough, I buy clothing specifically because I'm an art teacher. But if you see me in real life, I'm usually in neutrals, black, white, gray. I'm very boring. So you're going to continue fleshing out the rest of your canvas around all of your little fluffy clouds with this bright pink. Once you have it all spread on, remember to go back and go left to right to just even out that paint job. Oops. And then once you do that, you're going to mix up another color, which is going to be a purpley pink. Now, if the other color you mixed up on the opposite side, which was kind of this lavender pink, that may work. I'm making mine a little bit darker though. So maybe make this one first. It's just a hair darker. Let's see. Almost looks like it's the same. Let me add a little more purple in there. But we're going to then take that color. And you guessed it, we're going to sweep it a little bit into the purple right above where the pink is now. So into the purple. I'm using the side of my brush to kind of sweep it back and forth. Like so. And then you're also going to sweep that into your pink, but along the edge of the pink, going into, or I should say underneath the two clouds that you have there. So you're taking this purple and you're going to sweep it left to right. Start to make a gradient as you go down towards the bottom of the painting, but you don't want to go to the end. Okay, Kimmy. So the next color, this is a purple, the purple mixed with the pink so that you get sort of this color or this color right there. It's like a pinky purple. I'm so official when it comes to to colors. Pinky purple. Maybe lilac. There we go. Like a lilac. And then you're going to make that gradient. Again, now if you're getting streaks in your paint is probably a little too wet. So you want to dry off your brush so that basically it will blend. Or keep going back and forth and seeing if that'll mix in. And then while you have this on your brush, remember you're going to fizz it right atop, right in the middle there again of where you put the lilac color or the dark purple. And you're just going to brush some of this lighter color inside where your purple is. So I'm just going really light streaks. And then I like to wash off my brush, and I'm just going to blend that a little bit after I blot my brush on the paper towel. Make sure that your brush is pretty dry. And then you're just going to sweep right across and blend that. If your brush is still too wet, keep blotting, or you can also use a drier brush. Welcome. Did I just see someone else joined? Hey, Patty. And at this point, you might want to like go back in and add a little more purple to parts. I like to do that around the clouds to make it a little bit darker. And then I just go and I just blend it with my drying brush. This is if your paint is still wet. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to show that up close. So I just took little, tiny bit of purple paint on the edge, and I'm going around, kind of dotting it on around the edges. I mean, we're still going to be going back to do our clouds. So you may have to, dot a little more back on anyway. And again, just blend, blend, blend so that it's a gradient. And then you're going to continue. We have our pink down here at the bottom. So if you've been blending with your purple, you want to rinse off your brush. The other thing is, you may want to get some fresh water at this point. I know when I work in purples and blues, they tend to really saturate the water, and it's kind of hard to get them as clean. So I like to kind of at this point just grab some more water. So I'm going to just refresh my water right next door here. Right back. Okay. Water is refreshed. Take your time if you're refreshing your water. I'm going to flip over my paper towels. There we go. Okay, and then dry off. Clean brush. And we're going to start now getting into pink and yellow. So it's going to be like a peachy color. So basically, we're going to grab our yellow and grab some pink. If you don't have enough room on your plate, you can move that color. I think I have just enough right here to kind of do it. Kind of mix it up. And so what you're going to do is you're going to add that pinky yellow right where it starts to turn the pinky purple or the lilac. I'm just going to say lilac because that's pretty much what it is. And then you're going to take that down into probably around where your cloud is, the one that's kind of smaller here in the middle. And then on the other side, you're also going to start to sweep some of that yellow now into your purple, into the edge where the purple is and your pink is. And you're going to start moving your brush back and forth to create that gradient. So then you're kind of going to have this like yellowy pink that's on top of purple. It's kind of like a almost like a sunset color. Now, if it's too much, again, while you have that yellow on your brush, you can now go back into your lilac and just add that up top of what you just created, that purpley pink color, and then you can use that to make your gradient a little more. I like to go kind of back and forth as my brush is now wet with the yellow on it. I then even start to add a little bit of the lavender. So I'm just going to show this up close. So as you can see, I've got some lavender in there and the yellow. I'm just sweeping that back and forth like so. I'm going to go back up in here. So again, I'm taking yellow and pink. I'm just making a bit of a gradient in between the purple and the yellow. Or I should say the purple and the yellowish pink. And then at any time, if it's really, you know, your work is getting not blending, you can wash off your brush if your paint is still wet, and then dry it off very well on your paper towel. So you I keep blotting it, and then you can now go back into your paint, and you're going to mix those colors together with a little bit of that water on your brush. I'm going to add just a little more of this lavender here, right here, just to blend it a little bit more. There we go. And it's going to bring us down to the bottom of our painting, which we have covered in pink for now. But we're going to now mix our pink and white to get a really light pink. And then we're going to add a little bit of our yellow in there too. So I'm going to carve out a new space here, right on the edge here of my plate. And I'm going to start with white, and I'm going to add pink to it, because I want this pink to be lighter than what we have down there. And then we can go back in with the pink in the middle to make that gradient work. Probably thinking, wow, all this for these clouds, this cloudy pink sky painting. It's really about gradients and making the clouds look kind of cotton candy like. So I'm going to start at the bottom of our painting and should have a incredibly light pink at this point. I'm going to kind of dot it around the remaining clouds, both on the left and the right. You should be near the edge of your sort of pinky yellow color. And taking that very pale pink into the small cloud or right underneath the small cloud here. And then this is where you're going to start adding some more pink. This is all while your paint is wet. So I'm now layering or adding pink as it's wet. Going left to right. I'm going to add a little pink right underneath that small cloud. And then I'm going to start sweeping from left to right into my light pink down below. And going a little bit into where I already painted sort of the orangey up here, because I'm going to start adding a little more pink. And the yellow, which kind of created that sort of peachy orangey look. And then down below, you're going to add some streaks of white into your light pink. And add more pink wherever you see fit. If you want something to be a little more purpley, you can go ahead and do that too. Again, just keep left to right, blending those colors. Add a little more lavender right over here. Left to right. And then finally, adding some white to the bottom. But you have to make sure you wash off your brush. I'm just dipping a little bit into that white. just to give your sky a bit of brightness right at the bottom, right on top of the pink. And you can even add a little more pink if you like. I'm going to add a little more pink. It's not pink enough for me. Back and forth. So how are we all doing? Are we ready for clouds yet? So basically our clouds are going to start off with our blue, light blue. The light blue. And you want to switch to a smaller brush. So if we're going to be adding this brush, a combination of the, like the stenciling brush last minute, but first we want to get some blue on here first, meaning the light blue. So I like to grab a smaller flat brush if you have it. If not, you can just use whatever flat brush you are using. We want to get into our light blue. And you're going to paint your clouds first with a layer of this light blue. You're going to go right up until the edge of where your sky meets. So we're going to paint all the clouds just very quickly with our light blue for our base. So going again very carefully around. What I tend to do is kind of like almost like dotting it on around the edge of each cloud so that it has like a scalloped look to it. And then I tend to go a little straighter in the middle of the cloud. So you're going to do that to all the clouds. You're going to get your base of your blue. Kind of like the clouds, even just this color. When I was first painting it, I thought blue clouds would look pretty neat. It would be different. We're going to keep going here. So very carefully, take your time, but it doesn't have to be perfect in the sense of, you definitely want to cover most of the shape. Actually, all of the shape, because this is your base cover or base color. Sorry about that. We are going to add some purple, pink, white, yellow. We're going to add, our clouds are actually going to be pretty colorful, mostly white, but we're going to add some of those sort of cotton candy looking colors. Next time you look at clouds, take a look and see if you can figure out what colors, because it's definitely not just white and gray. Sometimes they are, but there's a lot of blue. And then, when you see the sunset skies at night, it's like pinks and oranges even. Okay, so that is our basis. That's our color. And then we're going to rinse off that brush. And we're going to add some white into that blue. So meaning a tip right on the end. And we'll start off again right at the top. And so probably what's happened is that your blue has dried. And that's okay. So we're going to start to dot on that white and have the blue, the darkest part of the clouds. So we're going to start off right at the top left corner with the cloud, and you're going to add some of that white on. And then you're also going to add some pink. So basically, and you're dotting that cloud, dotting with your brush. After this, we're also going to use our Q-tip or the other brush. So dotting on the pink. And then washing off your brush and patting it dry. And then you're going to go in with, so I gave two options for this class using the brush to dot on the fluffiness, and then also using the other brush, like the stencil brush. Some people found that the stencil brush was easier for them. Others liked the Q-tip. And then still others just liked to do it with their regular brush. So what I like to do is I kind of go back with my stencil brush after I've used the Q-tip, and then I kind of pat it around while it's still a little bit wet, because the other thing that happens that I think is kind of nice is the edges start to come out over the cloud, and it gives it a light ethereal look. So I'm just showing that up close like that. That's what I like to do with it. And then I go back in with my smaller brush, the pointy detail brush. And then I like to go in and actually paint with white some of the curves, or fluffiness, I should say, of the clouds. So I literally take the brush and I kind of rotate it around to create the fluffiness. And then I go back in, and that's where I start to kind of add in maybe a little more blue while it's wet. This is the light blue. Mostly around the edges of the fluffiness. So your light blue is acting like shadow. And then I also like to go in with a very light purple and pink. So I kind of mix together, you know how we made like that lilac color? I do the light blue in the shadow areas of the cloud, and then I start to paint on a little bit of lilac in spots. I'm just going to kind of show you that up close. Now, if you don't want your clouds so colorful, you can use white and the light blue. That's perfectly fine. Again, also, if you find using the Q-tip or even the other brush not helpful, you can just do it with the brushes you have. Depending on the size of the cloud, sometimes I just go in with my smaller, or I should say, my smaller flat brush that I have. And I just kind of quickly add in the white. I'm kind of used to doing these kind of clouds. So I just use usually a smaller or medium-sized brush, and then go back and, you know, fluff it a bit with the stencil brush. Let's see, a little bit more blue here. You do want to make sure when you are doing your clouds and you're adding the light blue again, that your paint is wet so that it will blend and not look like lines or harsh lines in the clouds. So like I said, I go in with my light blue again, and then I add right on top of the light blue while it's wet. I add that lilac color. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of pink, but I tend to use the blue and the kind of lilac color. And then, like I said, I then go back in to the edges. And I just kind of make them a little bit ethereal by then picking up some of the color with the stencil brush and then dotting it around it. Obviously, your moon is white. So when you get a chance to do that, that's just your thin brush, or I should say your detail brush. So working my way down here. I can't wait to see what these look like. And add a little more purple, or I should say, I say purple. It's really like that lavender or lilac. Sometimes I can even use the smaller brush here or the, this flat brush along the edges to create sort of the fluffiness that I'm looking for. And keep going here on this one. We're getting there. And again, at any time you can switch to your fine detail brush, especially for as the clouds get thinner towards the outer portion of them. It's much easier to use your detail brush for that. This one right here. Oops. As I get down at the bottom, I usually do multiple clouds at once, but you don't have to do that. A bit more blue. And some black. There, here. Some here. Some more up here. Sometimes I'll also go back when it's a little bit drier and add a little bit more color too, just depending on what it dried like. Gonna lighten up this one a little bit. This one tends to have more pink in it. White. And then you can go back and add more white if you need to, especially if the cloud is still slightly wet. It's kind of nice to chunk on some white, literally make it even look fluffy. Oops. A little bit more white here. And I'm thinking in another 2 minutes, we should see what everybody's looks like. White this one. And a bit more here. Oh, I almost forgot the moon. Moon here. Oh. And our last part is our stars, which you want to dot on. Oh, thank you, TG. It's great to see you. Have you? I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so using the tip of your brush, the other thing you can use, and I forgot to mention, is using a toothpick. I don't have any of those, so I use the tip of my small brush, pointy brush, and I go very lightly, incredibly tiny dots, sort of hovering above the painting, making sure that I'm barely touching the painting. So I put some white, obviously, on the edge, and then start to dot around. You can put as many stars as you want. I also like to kind of rotate my painting as I'm doing it, but you don't have to. I'm not going to put a whole lot of stars on this one for now because we can always go back and add more, especially after it's dry. Ooh, my one cloud was not dry yet, the bottom, and I just stuck my pinky into it. And put some over here. So I'm barely touching the sky here. Some of them a little bit thicker. But I am now curious what everyone's looks like at this point. So I'm going to remove my spotlight.